Okay, okay, Charlene. We connected a while ago. I don't know if you remember. It's probably a year by now.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, the reason why, I don't know if you remember, but I was looking for people who do some artwork with mushrooms, and I kind of found your stuff quite good. And yeah, it was
Thank
kind
you.
of like, no worries. Love at first sight. I decided to. I mean, let's try out. Maybe she's willing to do a cooperation, and it turns out you were. We had a little chat, and we pretty much quite it was fast decided on what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But before we go on, there's like an elephant in the room. Maybe you maybe you want to explain what your current artwork you have on is.
Yeah, well, my recent projects have been to create these masks out of mushrooms, as you can see it. I'll get a little closer. These particular mushrooms they're a blend of artwork from Planet Fungi and from Catherine and Stephen Axford and Meg Madden, who's from Vermont. She's under Meg Madden Designs. And those are the two artists that I reached out to through Instagram and asked for a collaboration because I wanted to do these masks. And I have a lot of mushrooms myself that I've taken photos of, but it's really nice to work with things that you can't find in Germany. And also just really great photographers who find beautiful mushrooms as we all get to admire through Instagram. And so yeah, I just started making masks and I have a few to wear over the the progress of our the podcast.
All right.
And this is one of my more recent ones that I haven't actually photographed yet. So yeah.
And come again, did you take those pictures of these mushrooms, or is that like a
No,
digital
this
artwork?
is this
Okay.
is the Planet Fungi and Meg Madden
Okay.
between. Yeah, I think these are, yeah,
Yeah, looks
kind of a
beautiful.
combination. Yeah.
And what are
So
they
yeah,
like?
so
What are
I
they used for?
the masks, it's
Yeah.
just art right now. Yeah. I've been thinking about having an exhibit. I've had a couple in some exhibits. Actually, the first three that I made are currently hanging in the window of Same Heads, which is a club slash bar in Neukölln in Berlin.
Oh,
And
nice.
that was a collaboration with a friend of mine, Attila Kenyaris, who's an amazing hairdresser, and he did this really cool hair installation, and he wanted masks, and we just ran into each other. And yeah, I told him I was a mushroom artist. Whenever I say this to people, they're like, "Wait, what?" And then I just had shown one of my first ones that I did, and yeah, him and the owner of the club, Nathan, they loved it, so they asked me to collaborate, and that was kind of the first fun thing that I did that I had it out in public. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
And maybe let's go a couple steps backwards and start where you maybe came across mushrooms, and like when did you decide on I'm going to be a mushroom artist? That's something, I mean, to be honest, I haven't heard that
Yeah.
before either, but I was looking for people like you, so I was quite happy that you were even in Berlin. So I was like, okay, I want to help artists here in Germany. And then I mean, perfect, there's a mushroom
Yeah.
artist. So how did
Right.
you, yeah, what did you decide to?
Well, it's I guess it just I think about this and I wonder. I know it was, I guess it might have been COVID and the whole lockdown. And I'm lucky enough my boyfriend has a car, and so in order to kind of escape this lockdown, we would go to nature. And I'd always kind of heard about people in Germany looking for mushrooms, foraging, and
Okay.
I thought that was super cool because I just didn't grow up knowing that this is a thing.
Yeah, same here.
And yeah, and so my boyfriend, so Philip, he had done it a few times, growing up, and was into it. And he's more into it for the eating part of it, like finding the delicious mushrooms, which I also appreciate. But as we would go and explore, I would, and you're focusing on finding mushrooms, and you just realize how many other types of fungus and things are growing in the forest. And I just, as a photographer, my background, just to step backwards a little, is graphic design and photography and fashion
Hmm.
design and textile design. So I've kind of like, that's kind of my growth pattern, I guess. And so seeing these mushrooms were just super inspiring to me, and all the colors, like when I first saw my first purple mushroom, my first pink mushroom, and green, and turquoise, and you just don't expect this
Yeah.
to be in the forest. And so I would spend a lot more time photographing these mushrooms, where my boyfriend would just be off like almost a mile away, just looking for edibles. But yeah, and then I guess it's funny how when you look at how you've changed. I don't know, I was much more into fashion photography, which
Hmm.
I guess, this is like a blend. Like I've done costume design for my own purposes, like Halloween or or whatever. Um, so it's not super far off, but I just thought it would be super cool to have this organic like mask. And also with like my other collage work, which you're familiar with.
Right.
Like I've always loved collage, so to put mushrooms and play with like the gills and um textures. And yeah, I don't know, I mean, the one postcard that you printed, the big collage, that was actually the original was a Christmas present for my boyfriend.
Oh,
So that
nice.
was kind of the I was like, oh, I've got to
Hmm.
make something cool for Christmas. And so yeah, he has the original one, which has changed a little bit. It has both of us in it. And
Oh, okay.
or,
Yeah.
um but yeah, so I started telling people I was a mushroom hunter. I was like, yeah, I'm a mushroom hunter. And then I
Right.
realized, like, no, I'm a mushroom explorer. And then I would, and then I realized, no, I'm a mushroom artist. And so that's kind
That's
of where I'm
amazing.
sitting now. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you did because, like I said, the collage. I mean, I'm gonna put it up here. I
Mhm.
pretty much fell in love with that as well. It's
Oh,
actually my favorite picture. I have it in my where I work. It put it the postcard everywhere, and
mhm.
also got great feedback. So it's quite
Cool.
it's quite nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, and you already said it, like the whatever you inspired was the colors, the different. You said the gills, like there's so many different textures. Is there like any specific mushroom you say is like has a special place in your heart?
Yeah. I think lately, I mean, currently, I would say turkey tails. I kind of
Oh
come back
yeah,
and forth with turkey tails, just because they're, I mean, they're so cool, and there's so
yeah.
many different colors. And I see pictures from other people, um, where I'm like, oh, I've never seen them in that color. And it's so cool.
Right.
And, I've come across trees. I came across this fallen tree on this little island that was just covered with them, but they were really little. And I was like, oh, if only I could come back to this island and see them grown, because it was just incredible. Um, and yeah, I think that's currently one of my favorites. I have like, yeah, I have a couple masks to change into later that have turkey tails on them. So
Yeah, that's a good answer because you said currently.
yeah.
I stopped asking people what's their favorite mushroom because pretty stupid, to be honest.
It
It
changes.
just
Yeah.
changes. Yeah. Once you
Yeah.
dive into the world, you find so many. It's like what, yeah, what is currently your favorite? And I think on our postcards we send out, you actually have the chanterelles.
Yeah, that was like
So
last year for sure. That was that was it was just so much fun. They smell so good. I
mhm,
never realized they smell like apricots or like peaches, or
mhm.
like they're such a sweet scent. And yeah, and the
The
gills
color. Yeah.
were just incredible. Yeah. And we found so many, and they're so delicious. Yeah. But the turkey tails are medicinal also, which
Yes.
just like all of these extra properties of mushrooms kind of
That's amazing. Like if you
continued to
found them
impress.
too, that's so cool. Like, do you actually
Yeah.
do something with them as well?
The turkey tails,
Yeah.
I every time I find them, I always think they're too small and I want them to grow more. So I never actually pick them. No, but I've
Yeah.
intended to, because I had a couple friends with breast cancer, and after watching Fantastic Fungi, I was like, ooh, like this is important. This should be.
Right.
And then I watched, videos on YouTube how to make the tinctures, extractions.
Right.
But I haven't had a good enough log where I thought, oh, these are really good ones. That no.
Got it. Well, that's something good, I guess, coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
You found your passion for mushrooms. Would you also say
Yeah.
that you kind of have a different view on nature since you
Yeah,
discovered mushrooms?
100,
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I'm from California. I was born and raised in like the Bay Area, and you know, I went back this winter in January and February, and we explored like all the national parks, and just even just going to Santa Cruz, which was pretty much my backyard. I saw so many mushrooms, and I just saw so many things in a different way that I just never looked at nature that way. My
Yeah.
boyfriend's like, "Why did you move to Berlin? Like, why did you ever leave
Yeah.
California? It's so beautiful."
It's a valid
And
question. Yeah. Yeah.
and it is beautiful. I mean, uh, and I love it, but I lived there almost my whole life, and I appreciate it, and I will always go back. And now I can appreciate the nature more. But
That's
yeah,
amazing.
it really, for example, looking for morels, like we had to learn about the trees, and then we're like, oh, we have to learn to identify trees. Like this is a big part of mushroom hunting. And then so then you're looking at trees more, and then you're like looking at all the flowers, and you're looking at the soil, and you're looking at the snail shells that
Hmm.
that are around. And it really is a full cycle of nature,
Right.
that the mushrooms tie everything together. And then of course, like when you learn about mycelium and that the mushrooms are just the fruit, you're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. It's also for me the first time I came across all these facts. I was like, this is mind boggling. I was like, what the fuck? How
Yeah.
did I not know that? This is
Yeah.
so crazy. And now diving into the whole, information and talking to people is like always you find something new, and it's I love it. And it's
Yeah.
basically like if I hear you speak how you get also into the mushroom world, it's pretty much how you learn art as well, didn't you? It's like learning by doing.
Yeah. 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 For sure. I think like um in the beginning, there were lots of mushrooms where we are just like, oh, that's not edible, or that looks edible. It's like it doesn't really. It's
You didn't
like,
try
and
first,
people
did you?
would, yeah,
Yeah.
no, we would actually be really safe about it and look everything up twice or three times, and if we weren't 100% sure, we wouldn't eat it. But we have tried lots of really cool mushrooms that I would have never eaten, like hedgehog. Hedgehog. I'm not sure the germ. I can't remember the term. Stimmel, uh, Stemmel pills, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know.
So like,
There's
yeah,
even variations in regions here in
yeah,
Germany, so
yeah.
it's like
Well,
it.
it's like the
Yeah.
ones with the the spiky spores, or like the sorry. Like
But you don't, you do you mean the lion's mane?
no,
No.
no,
But it
it's
looks like a
called a,
coral?
no, it looks
No idea.
like, oh gosh, if I don't have my book here, but um no, it's like, yeah, they're like little spikes. The pores are little spikes, and it has a mushroom top. Like, we
Okay.
actually found a really nice fairy ring of them that was
Okay.
really cute, and yeah, they're delicious, and even grow in the winter. And yeah, and the oysters, of course, I've known, but we've found some amazing ones of those. And then, of course, the chicken of the woods. The first time I saw it, we were like, "Oh, no way,
Yeah,
would
same
you
here.
ever
I
eat
freaked
this?"
out. Yeah.
And then,
You take
I've
it
got some
home?
really good. That night, no, we were
Okay.
on a kayak trip with friends,
Oh,
and
okay.
we had just landed and saw it, and we were like, whoa, and we did videos. We took pictures. I mean, we were fascinated by it, but it was
Yeah.
it was right before we had really gotten into mushrooms so much. And so but then
Such an
after
intense
finding
color
out,
too.
yeah, I mean, it's just the easiest one to find, right? 'Cause it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
right there. But no, since then, we've eaten it many times and had some story worthy experiences with them as well.
You mean
Yeah.
psychedelic, or what do you mean?
No, no. Well, so, and maybe this is a lesson for people. I don't know, but we take this kayak trip once a year. This is like a tradition with our friends. And that first year, we saw that chicken in the woods, and we didn't eat it, so we were filled with regret. And we were like, okay, next kayak trip, if we find it, we're going to cook it for everyone, and everyone's going to be so excited. And so we found perfect chicken in the woods. We prepared it, and we um, realized that we wanted to barbecue it. We didn't have the things to barbecue. We also wanted to marinate it in soy sauce. And we knew we were going to to a store along our path the next day, so we waited. And so we put it in the cotton tote bag, and the next day when we were ready to cook it, there was like a kind of like a white
Mm.
coating on a lot of them, and we were like, hmm, like, is it still good to
Yeah.
cook?
Okay.
And I thought that was just the spores. Like, I was like, I'm pretty sure the spores are white. I think we looked this up, and we looked up also how long did they stay good. And it said up to, 7 hours, or like, oh no, up to 7 days in the refrigerator. And so it wasn't a hot day or anything. So we decided to try it and cook it. So I cooked it. I cooked the smaller pieces and fed it to everyone. It was delicious. Everyone loved it. It was great. A couple hours went by. We got the fire going for the barbecue, and we cooked the bigger fillet, the bigger
Hmm.
chunks. And I I think this, if you ask Philip, he might say something different, but I'm pretty sure we just didn't cook it enough.
Hmm.
And we all, well, not all, there were about 17 people, 9 got sick, and 8 didn't. Um, and the 9 of us that did get sick got really sick. But once we threw up, it was fine. And but it
Okay.
was pretty, it was an event where you just like heard people in like the distant, part of the woods throwing up, and me and Philip felt
That's
so bad because
crazy.
we're like, we
Yeah.
just poisoned everybody.
Right.
um but you know I continued to eat it later in the season, not that one obviously, but and I'm fine. I just know you have to cook it enough, and we didn't cook it
Yeah.
enough because the flame wasn't close enough to the mushroom, and
Right.
even though we did it for like a half hour, it just wasn't Yeah, it wasn't
Wasn't enough.
enough. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
That's
so I
especially
don't know if
with
my friends
chicken
will
of the
eat
woods. Yeah.
the chicken of the woods anymore, but we had to, we were like, it's not a poisonous mushroom, it's just toxic if you don't cook it enough. And so yeah.
And they're still
It-
your friends, I hope.
they are. They
Okay,
are,
good.
yeah. No, we all laughed about it in the morning. It was fine. Everyone was fine the next day. Yeah.
Well, the good thing about it is that they'll never forget it too. So
Exactly. It
yeah,
made a good story.
yeah, exactly. So that's good.
Yeah.
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 Um,
So I'm ready to change masks.
yeah,
Shall
go ahead.
okay, I'm just gonna go off camera real quick. Okay.
Oh, geez.
So
Okay. Do you know what kind of
but
mushrooms you use? Like, do you know all the
what these are,
names? Yeah.
so okay, so these are amethyst deceivers, the purple ones. So all this this these are turkey tails, the blue ones. These are from Planet Fungi also. I think I want
They're
to say
beautiful.
crepidotus maybe or something like this. I'm really bad. And then and these these ones are also from Planet Fungi. This one here. I can't remember. I can't
That's
remember
fine.
the names. I should really know them better, but yeah.
Can you walk me through a process? Like, if you started your project, um, something, I mean, like that, or collage, like
Mhm.
how does it start? Like, do you get an inspiration from somewhere and you say, like, oh, I'm going to do this, or is it project based? Because I am not an artist, so I have no
Mhm.
clue. So
Yeah.
maybe you can give me some insight.
Yeah, I think well, for example, the masks. If I have new mushrooms that I want to play with, I I just take the photo and I cut them out on Photoshop, and then I place them on a sheet of paper, print them out in different sizes, and cut them out with
Hmm.
scissors, and that's so before I even made the masks, I just wanted to do collages with mushrooms. So I would just place them um, on paper and take pictures of them, and then sometimes even process the photos afterwards in
Mm,
apps, or even bring them back into Photoshop. And uh, yeah, and then as I was placing them, I realized that they looked kind of fun, like faces and stuff. And then that was the beginning of how I started to make the masks. And then I really liked the 3D
mhm,
effect. Like a lot of people are like, are those real mushrooms? I'm like, of
mm.
course not. but they
No,
do
it
have
smell.
this. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have, a few real mushrooms that I've picked, that have dried really nicely, but of course it wouldn't be
Yeah.
like this. And I think one of the coolest what's cool for me to see is like a lot of these mushrooms, the scale is, totally off.
Right.
Um, like all something that's like a slime. I have one that I did with um, a slime mold that was really tiny, but I printed it out like this, and it's weird to see, but it's cool. It's just playing with that reality. And I've always loved surrealism, and I think if anything that kind of weaves a way through my art,
Yeah.
at all times.
Yeah. That's also one of the things that I kind of find interesting when you work with art in this space with mushrooms, because usually, like you said, once you found out about mycelium, there's like so much more to the mushroom, and a lot of people are afraid to even touch mushrooms. But if you turn them around, like the gills show themselves,
Hmm.
it's like very beautiful. And then if you
Yeah.
change your perspective and maybe look at it in a different way, just play around with the lighting and all that, so you can basically find another world where you can really like dive into and see totally
Yeah.
different images. If like the patterns and all that. I love it. It's so
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. The like the Schizophyllum commune mushroom, which is like the fungus that is supposedly the most common, like it grows everywhere.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking like, why haven't I found this yet? It grows everywhere. And then once you realize that you have to, flip it
Turn it off.
upside
Yeah.
down to see how cool the split gill looks, and then you start to see it, because then you start flipping logs over and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
seeing that. And but that yeah, that is one of the most it is one of the most beautiful mushrooms, I think. And yeah, my next mask is full on just split gills.
Nice.
And I think touching mushrooms, I remember, like, I mean, I always wanted to touch all the mushrooms, like, from the beginning. And then someone told me, that might not be good. There could be poisonous ones. And um,
Who told you that?
so my sister, actually,
Mm.
she has a friend, and I don't want to like spread, like, rumors, but she claims that her friend's daughter actually died
Mm.
from from mushrooms. So I don't know if she touched a poison one and then touched her mouth or what, but
Right.
so she had warned me early on when I first started my, mushroom exploration, not to to touch too many or put your hands in your mouth. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to be really careful.
Right.
But yeah, now I mean, I touched them all pretty
You
much.
can
And
touch it with a stick too. But
yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, at least here in Germany, I was told that there's like not that many poisonous, like the deadly
right.
ones, like
The
you
death
have to
cap.
eat
Yeah,
them. Yeah. But it's
yeah,
like not by touching. Like there's
right.
some deadly ones apparently, but they're not here in Germany. So
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Germany
yeah.
doesn't have much life-threatening, any, like,
No,
there's not a lot of
boredom,
anything
maybe
that'll,
that's it. Yeah.
yeah, unless you have a forest close by, which most people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Uh-oh.
know, but it's like you said, you went to back to California and
Oh,
found a couple of
sorry.
mushrooms there as well.
Yeah, well,
Um,
yeah,
wh-
actually some from my bucket list.
oh, is that right?
We've
Okay.
Yeah, we were able to find black trumpets, which
Mm,
which I had been very jealous that I hadn't tried them yet, and seeing them everywhere. And then another one, funnel chanterelle, which is same
mhm.
family. Uh, and very I liked it better than the black trumpets, actually. And then we saw the earth fingers, the, like, black
Mhm.
um little, like, like kind of like dead man's fingers.
Yeah.
And then oh, the little bird's nest.
Oh yeah.
um
Hmm.
Found those, and they're way smaller than I thought they were, like, I don't know, I
I
imagined them
haven't
much
found them
bigger.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, some new, like, wax caps that I'd never seen, like really, really bright, like fluorescent yellow ones. And
Oh, amazing.
um yeah, it was really cool. um
Oh, that's so cool.
and
So,
yeah.
what would you say that better or not better, but is it more diverse in California than Berlin?
Well, we were there in the winter,
Yeah.
so and it's, forever in a drought. So
Mm, yeah, that's
I
true.
I don't know if it was a good, I mean, we went to Mendocino County, like, hoping to, and that is where we found um like the black trumpets and stuff. And but I know, it has a lot of potential, and I'd love to go back another season. But I've found so many mushrooms here. I made a book for Christmas, like, of just, like, all the mushrooms, and I given one to my mom, and she was shocked. She's like, "You found all of these?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, you just
Yeah,
gotta
Berlin
look.
is quite good for that, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
there's so
yeah,
many forests around. Yeah.
yeah. And even, when you visit I visited Sweden last year, or Slovenia, or Poland, of course, and um, Czech Republic, and there's lots. There's just so much to find. It's really cool.
Did you would you say they have different mushroom culture, or a different culture around mushrooms in different countries? Like where would you say there's the people most fond of mushrooms?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that the US even had a mushroom culture until um
What?
Instagram, looking at
Oh, really?
Well, because like I said, I didn't grow up with it, and I didn't know anyone.
Yeah,
I didn't
makes
know anyone
sense.
who foraged.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe where I grew up, I don't know. But Santa Cruz, I mean, when I went to Santa Cruz, I was like, whoa, they're like they're everywhere. This is really cool. Um, and yeah, but then it was actually maybe even my sister, she moved to Pennsylvania, and I remember one time she had went out on a walk and just found so many mushrooms and took so many pictures, and then I was like, wow, like that's so cool that she found these mushrooms, and there's so many. And I think that was probably the first like spark when I saw that. And yeah, I mean, she's very lucky to Pennsylvania, and I'd say the East Coast, like, Vermont, where Meg Madden is. It's just like she finds everything.
That's cool. It's
It's
probably
very
not
cool,
as dry, is it?
No, it's not dry at all.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like if you travel around Europe, would you say there's like different I don't know, like do people react differently to mushrooms, or like what's your experience? Or do you only know
Right
mushroom
now,
people by now?
no, I mean, I feel like I'm still the oddity in our group. Like, my friends are like, "Oh, you're the mushroom girl." I mean, I wonder why.
Quite obviously, yeah. You run around with a
But
mask through
yeah,
Berlin
but
too.
so many people are interested, and they like I went to a party, and of course I dressed up as a mushroom. It was a surrealist theme party, so
Okay.
it suited it. But as the mushroom girl, like so many people came up to me and were interested in saying that they wanted to go out, and they had heard people go out foraging. And so I know there's a lot of interest, and I think it's growing for sure. But I don't know if I can speak on the culture, beyond like just Berlin and
Yeah, I
my
mean, from your
friends.
experience, yeah,
Yeah,
obviously. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, I mean, we all live in our bubbles. And we're looking for people like that. Like you said, if you open up your Instagram, I mean, obviously we're following people who are
yeah,
in the scene,
yeah.
so it's quite obvious. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I fear at least in Eastern Europe, there people are way more open about
Mm.
mushrooms. And if you also look at the statistics, there's like a whole bunch. The wild mushrooms are coming from Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So here in Germany, it seems like there's people, they really have these I don't know, they're afraid in a sense. And like you said, they won't touch them, they're afraid of, getting poisoned, all that. So
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
changing
Unless
too.
it's unless it's a Steinpilz
Yeah.
or a Maroon, maybe. Most
Yeah,
people are like,
exactly.
we only get the Steinies, and I'm like, okay, I'll get all the other ones. That's fine. I
Yeah,
mean,
true.
I do want a Steinpilz. I still actually, sadly, have not found an
Same here.
edible one, and it crushes me. This
Yeah,
is my year. I'm like, I thought last year was my year, but this is definitely going to be my year.
cool. Yeah. Best of luck. I don't know. I haven't found it yet
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
So I'm
Wait,
still looking.
I'm gonna change masks
Yeah, go
again
ahead.
real quick. I'm known for my outfit changes, so this will.
Yeah. Keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So this one
Like it.
is like I said, these are all mostly split gills,
That looks
except
nice.
for
I like the
this
colors.
one. Yeah, this is all I think, yeah, these are all planet fungi mushrooms.
That's
So
so
yeah.
cool.
From far away, it looks kind of like a bug. Like I
Now it
feel
looks like a big ass smile, like like the lips.
like.
But yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's like a
Uh,
Rorschach.
how did you like art itself? Like, what does it mean to you? Why are you like why are you doing all this?
Why?
Yeah.
Wait, sorry. I just need to adjust real quick. Um, I don't know why. I guess because um hmm, to make to put something out there that reflects something I'm passionate about
Mhm.
in a cool way that interests people, I guess. And um um yeah, to have something to take photos of also, I guess. Um I yeah, like I said, when most of my inspiration would come from me just wanting to have something to take pictures of, like back when I would do costumes and for Halloween, like I said, Halloween. um yeah, I guess just something to show for. I don't
That's
know, I'd like to think of myself, like if I were to look at myself as an artist in, I don't know, 20 years or 30 years or whatever. I'd like to be someone like Louis Bourgeois, or someone who's just done a lot of different things, and you look at this retrospective and you're like, oh, this is her mushroom phase, this is her um, crochet phase, or this is
right.
her fashion photography phase, or this is her collage phase. Like, I like having, um, I guess I like the unknown. So
Hmm.
I thrive in this not knowing, and I thrive in, like, sorry, I think my one of my cats wants is creeping in my, okay, I'm sorry.
No
Um
worries.
but but yeah, I think it's fun to make something new, and it's I don't know how many masks I'm gonna make. I think I made a couple lamps for a
Hmm.
friend's bar that looked really cool, and it had been something I'd been wanting to do, to make something like this, but illuminated from the inside, and something that could be useful. um, and that I think I'll make some more lamps as well. I think that was actually a really, I mean, it was tedious and it took a long time, and
How
it
many hours do you put in for a mask or a lamp?
well, a lamp, it was like 30 hours. It was
Oh, okay.
it was a long
A
time.
lot.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was a lot of cutting, and it was a lot of because then it's like you place everything, and I do it all temporary with just like masking tape. And then after you have that, then it's like the glue gun, and that's a
Hmm.
whole other. Uh, I think I'm still learning how to use a glue gun properly, and like burning my fingers, Um, but now I'm also doing that with these, where in the beginning they were taped. Some are still taped with like nicer like gaff tape, but then um, the ones that were just masking tape, I now have put.
Yeah. How would you say that Berlin is it a scene where that you can like help exploring this phase, like you said, or like how much how important is this city right now to you?
It's, I mean, it's my city. It's like my favorite. Like, I'm so glad that I chose it to live in, and I feel like even after being, home in California for 2 months, when I came back to Berlin, I really felt at home. And even, one of the reasons I moved here was because I love to travel, and I knew that if I was in Europe, I could travel to all these other cities very easily. And so I would, in the in the beginning, I'd travel to a lot of different cities, and when I would come back to Berlin, I just felt like this acceptance and
Mm.
this freedom. And I mean, I can go on the subway, wearing
I
this
know. Yeah, yeah.
and be received really well, and also just not even cared about at the same time, um, and I feel like it's a perfect place for me right now, especially growing as an artist. And this is actually funny because um, it wasn't until I moved to Berlin, and I don't know why that. I have guesses on why this is, but I never would ever call myself an artist.
Oh, that's
But
interesting. Okay.
and
Why
I've
not?
and I've done a lot, but mostly maybe because I've always been more of a commercial artist. So I was, a
Mm.
graphic designer and a photographer, like fashion photographer and fashion designer and textile designer, and all these things were for companies, and I was being paid for them. And so once I guess maybe I stopped getting paid for them and creating artwork for myself, and maybe even suffering a little bit, like money
Right.
and not getting paid for these things, I felt more like an artist, which is so fucked up on so many levels. I think because I've been an artist my whole life, and I wasn't necessarily discouraged from that growing up, but I wasn't fully encouraged either. And so I feel like this sense of freedom that I feel moving to Berlin was part of this also, of like this
Mm.
letting go of commercial, like having to succeed, having to get a job, having
Right.
to do certain things. And yes, I'm a freelancer and I do work, but I don't have to work that much to get by. And so
Right.
I can spend my time doing things like this.
Yeah.
Um, and and it does, there are payoffs as well. And I also am not so worried about them anymore. And I have really embraced the sense of like success
Hmm.
after moving to Berlin. And I think it's something my best friend Lucy, who if you meet me, you will hear about her because she's one of my favorite people. And she told me one time, she's like, "You are successful. Like, I don't know why you don't think you're successful. Like, you
Mm.
moved to Berlin on your own. You do what you want. You are happy. You are thriving. Like, this is success. Even if you don't have money, like you're you're fine. You're like, people wish they could be and
Right.
we all choose different things and paths in our lives, and sometimes you check yourself against what your parents wanted for you.
Or
And
society. Yeah. Yeah.
society, and yes, my mom loves my mushroom masks, but she would probably be a lot happier if I was doing something a little more practical with my life.
Well,
But I
yeah,
think
I get it. Yeah.
I've worn her down a little more. But yeah, I mean, I am I'm happy, and mushrooms bring great joy currently. So yeah,
Well, is it fair to say that mushrooms kind of liberated you a little bit?
they definitely gave me a whole bunch of inspiration and continue to do so. And yeah, they are, they're a muse. They just uh the people, but I don't know. I love mushroom people, whatever that means. Like, you're a mushroom person, like we're mushroom
Yeah.
people, like people who get it, like this different level of because if you love mushrooms, you love nature, and if you love nature, like
Yeah.
I've always been somewhat of a hippie, even though
Hmm.
I'm definitely a city dweller and I love the culture a city brings. But this is also why Berlin is so cool, because the nature and
Yeah. You have
the
best of
city
both
is
worlds. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. um
That's so
so
cool,
yeah,
man.
whether if it's liberated me, I mean, magic mushrooms definitely I think I would say have liberated me the first time I did them, and many other times. That for sure is something I'm grateful for, having that,
Yeah, it's interesting that
experience.
you kind of like you have to define success for yourself, and it seems like, at least in my experience, nobody taught you that. I mean, it's like you have a concept of it, but it's you always try to look left and right, and you compare yourself to others, and then in that sense you kind of lose yourself. And I would also say, like you said, mushrooms, at least for me, they kind of liberated
Mhm.
me in a huge way,
Yeah,
mentally, but also career wise. Like you said, it's interesting, and
yeah,
you have to define it yourself, whatever success means to you. But if I hear you talk and you say like you have enough time to do passion projects, I don't know that many people around me who have that freedom, to be honest.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
And you're
I'm very
connected
lucky.
to nature. You are, yeah,
Yeah.
and you do great
Yeah.
things while you're doing it.
Ah,
So,
thank you.
um,
Nice.
do you like? Because I don't have that much experience with art myself. I mean, I painted one picture lately. I mean,
Mhm,
during when I was younger, I did a lot, but I wouldn't
mhm.
call that pictures. Uh, and like the concept was flow state. Like, is there a do you have that as well? If you do your artwork, like where do you lose yourself, and what do you like doing the
Yeah,
most?
yeah, what I realized is it's still photography. Like,
Yep.
photography is my flow state. Yeah, I love it so much. Like, working with models, and I mean, ideally, like, I do love fashion. I love the hair and the makeup and the styling and the models, and collaborating in that sense, and creating a story from that. But even just, the last time I photographed my mushroom masks, and it was just me and this very sweet girl named Agatha, and uh, we didn't even know each other. Like, she had just written me on Instagram and said, "Oh, I saw your masks in the window at Same Heads, and
That's
I
amazing.
love them." Yeah, and so in my mind it was a sunny day, and these were rare at the time in Berlin, and so I was like, I have to. This is the day I have to shoot my mask, and so I just wrote her, like, randomly, like, "Would you model for me?" And she was like, "Yes." And we met, like, within an hour in the forest at Treptower Park, and shot like 10
That's
masks in
always
like
a good
a
start
couple
to
hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I could have, if it wasn't freezing cold, because it was the winter, um I would have just had been there for hours and wanted to continue shooting. And I'm I feel like one thing that does make me a good photographer is I know when to stop. So I don't do that. And I am very aware of the time, but if given the time and with the right model and everything, I could just keep going. And I do get a bit lost. It's really
That's
nice.
nice.
Yeah.
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 And what specifically is it? Like, do you have any specialization where you say like you play with the colors? Is that like what is it that you say you get lost in?
Um, I think, like I mentioned before with the unknown, like,
Hmm.
it's just like discovering
Like a
a new,
challenge
new
also.
location, or
Mm,
yeah, the lighting changes or the outfit changes, or um and you see something new, and you just it's experimental. You have this set of skills that allows you to, like, take a picture. And since iPhones, or good cameras on phones came out, everyone's a photographer, and it's
yeah,
not a bad
exactly.
thing. It's like everyone's a photographer, but everyone has their own viewpoint, and not everyone's going to take the same picture no matter what. I've had a few people reach out and want to photograph my masks, and I'm like, Yeah, for sure. You know, I have no, just because I'm also a photographer, I don't want to be the only one to photograph them, because I think they're cool, and I'd love to see what someone else brings to the table. And that's also part of, you know, this collaborative spirit that I'm very much behind. And I think it just brings out the best if
Hmm.
you have a cool team, you know. um and that's also part of why it's cool for me, like, to photograph someone, because you're dealing with someone else. You know, I'm not doing still lifes. And even even if I was, that would still be cool, because you're dealing with lighting, you know, you're dealing with the different elements. But it is fun to have a model and to have the subject in that way. Yeah.
It's the beauty with mushrooms in that sense. They're still alive, but it's,
Exactly.
they stay calm. Put
Yeah.
it that way.
No, and they are fun. They're super fun. They are a good model. They are a really nice model, and you know, you clean them up and you style them, and you sometimes even move them and find the right light and the right angle. You know, I mean, that was the interesting thing with the chanterelles, is they changed color with the light so much. And
Hmm.
they, you know, the same mushroom, I would bring them home and I'd take pictures of them also, just against a plain background or something, just, and yeah, the color changes. So when you look at my, you know, the mask has like all these different colors, but they're the same mushroom. Just because the lighting, which is cool.
That's
Yeah, it's
amazing.
all about lighting. Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, it's a skill set. I also I have a good friend who's a videographer. How do you call it? Video. I mean, he's
Mm.
an expert in video. Let me put it that way.
Videographer.
And
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. I can't pronounce that word correctly.
Yeah.
So and it's interesting when I like work with him in any project. The way he looks through the camera is so unique. Like he captures different things. It's just interesting. And I like working with him. I kind of understood that, it isn't kind of an art because you have a skill set which is way different than what we used to. Like you said, everyone can take great pictures with an iPhone 13. I mean, it's the software does so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, to really capture images, you know what you're doing. Like that's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you mentioned before that you're looking to do an exhibition. Is that correct? Is
Yeah,
it going to
I
be in
would.
Berlin or?
Yeah, I would assume. I think so. Yeah. There's a couple options and opportunities, and I haven't even really pursued it, but just a couple people have reached out and kind of put the thought in my head, and I really do want to grow this kind of aspect of my art, like the masks, that I want to make them more, um, more of an installation. Like I have
Mhm.
this, I have, you know, a couple ideas to do like something with a friend of mine who's a musician, and one day I was working on a mask, and she was my roommate. She was recently moved out, but so she was in the other room working on music. And it's as if like she was making mushroom music inspired by like what I was doing. And you know, what's mushroom music? But when she played it, I was like, oh my God, this is like perfect mushroom music. And so we had thought about doing like a really cool immersive art project where like the people are limited who are in this installation, and everyone's wearing one of my masks. So everyone you're looking at or interacting with, if at all interacting with, but who are walking around are part of the exhibit. And I wanted to like, you
Oh,
know,
nice.
have the kind of like 3D things like all over, and as you walk through, the music changes, and it's kind of like this whole
That sounds good. Yeah.
thing. Yeah, I would. I mean, this is when I might reach out to my friend who has a laser cutter, and laser cut these instead of doing it by hand, because
That's a
yeah, it
tedious
does
process.
it is very tedious. It's meditative, and I love it, and I look forward to it. Like when I first print out a new sheet of mushrooms, I'm kind of excited, but then halfway through, I'm like, oh, am I done? Am I done yet? But it's part of the process, and it is very satisfying to do sometimes.
All right.
This just like monotonous, mind numbing activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, keep me updated. I would love
Yeah.
to, if you have an exhibition, let me know. I'd love to take
Okay,
a look at
cool.
it as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
yeah, to finish it up, I mean, you have Instagram. Also looked at your webpage, which is quite beautiful. I love the work you have on there.
Oh, thank you.
Where can people find you? Like, where can also they look at your art?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram at shrooms, which is
I'm gonna put it
SHHHROOOMS.
down there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of on brand, the shrooms and Sharlene, because I had
It's
gotten
meant to be.
deleted by, yeah, I got deleted by Instagram
Oh,
for
really?
whatever reason. Yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
They just didn't like something I posted in my stories. I was like at an art exhibit, and I think there were titties or something, and
Mm.
I just got deleted and never got back. So I just changed it to my name again, but with 3 H's. And then so when I was trying to figure out the name for my mushroom Instagram, I was like, oh, shrooms. Just like Sharlene.
Yeah.
And so yeah. But yeah, that's the place to look for my mushroom stuff. I haven't actually um updated much of my other stuff recently, but yeah, I wanted to uh make actually one of my new focuses that I want to do is also to create textile prints with
Mm.
mushrooms for the fashion industry, which is one of the things I used to do. Not with mushrooms, but I've been a textile designer for like over 10 years. And I just, when I see these and I see the patterns that I'm creating, I'm like, oh, this looks so cool, like on a skirt or, fabric for a dress or tank top. I could just like visualize it, but I know it's harder for the industry to visualize it unless
Mm.
it's on fabric or, like it's like in front of their face like this. So this is something I'm gonna try to do as well. We'll see how that works.
Oh, amazing! I'm following you. I
Uh,
love your work, especially
Thank
also
you.
the new stuff you did with the black background. I
Oh,
love
the
it.
posters. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's so beautiful. I was
Nice.
a little mad. I was like, oh fuck, why didn't I wait? Because they're still nice, the pictures we use for the orders we ship out,
Oh
but
yeah.
yeah, the new work is quite amazing. So
Oh, thank you.
go check it out, and thank you very much. It was lovely to talk to you. Every time we talk,
Thank you.
it's been
Yeah, it's
a
so
pleasure.
easy.
Yes,
Pleasure's
and
mine. Thank you.
all right, bye bye.
Okay, bye.